You ever wonder what it's like to lead the most high-tech, caffeine-fueled branch of the U.S. military? The Air Force loves to say they aim high, but what they don't tell you is that half their officers are just aiming for the nearest Starbucks. From the fresh-faced second lieutenant trying to figure out what a sortie actually is, to the full-blown general who hasn't touched a wrench since the Clinton administration. We're roasting every Air Force officer rank, the good, the bad, and the ones who somehow turned chair force into a lifestyle. Strap in, pilot. We're going wheels up. Second Lieutenant, 01. Welcome to the Air Force, Lieutenant. You finally made it. Shiny gold bar, crisp uniform, and absolutely no clue what you're doing. You're fresh out of commissioning school, full of leadership quotes and motivational posters, ready to make a difference. The bad news? You're about to discover that nobody cares. Your first few weeks are a crash course in humility. Enlisted airmen have been running the base longer than you've been able to rent a car. You'll show up with your brand new degree, trying to sound confident, and someone with 12 years of experience will politely remind you that you're still figuring out how to log into your computer. Your job? Mostly meetings about meetings. You'll sign documents you don't understand, nod through acronyms you can't decode, and pretend you know the difference between maintenance and logistics. You'll learn fast that leadership in the Air Force often means asking a staff sergeant how things actually work, then taking credit for it in a briefing. But don't worry, every mistake you make will become base-wide legend. Forget to salute a senior officer? That story will outlive your career. Try to motivate your airmen with a quote from a Marvel movie? Congratulations, you just became a meme on Air Force Reddit. You're not useless, Lieutenant. You're just in the tutorial stage. Enjoy it while it lasts, because next up you actually start getting blamed for things. First Lieutenant 02. Congratulations. You survived being a second lieutenant, which is already more than half your peers can say. You've been promoted. The gold bar became silver, and with it comes, well, nothing really. You still get lost on base, you still rely on your NCOs for everything, and you're still called sir with that same hint of sarcasm. The difference now is that you've learned how to fake confidence like a pro. You've mastered the art of saying, "I'll look into it," when you have no idea what's going on. You can brief PowerPoint slides like a politician. Lots of words, zero meaning. You're still not sure what operational readiness means, but you've used it in 3 meetings today and everyone nodded. At this rank, you're in the awkward teenager phase of your Air Force career. Too experienced to be the new kid, not experienced enough to be trusted with real power. You get just enough responsibility to make mistakes that actually matter now. And those mistakes? Yeah, they're on you this time. You'll start mentoring new lieutenants, giving advice like, just listen to your NCOs, as if you weren't terrified of them last year. You'll even catch yourself using phrases like, back when I was a butter bar, completely ignoring the fact that was only 11 months ago. Deep down, you're proud though. You survived your first evaluation reports, your first angry commander email, and maybe even your first deployment. You're not great yet, but you're no longer a walking hazard, and that's progress. Still, enjoy this rank, because next stop is Captain, and that's where the Air Force starts expecting you to actually know things. Captain, 03. Ah, Captain, the rank where optimism goes to die. You're now the backbone of the Air Force, which is ironic because you haven't slept in 3 days and your spine hurts from leaning over a desk full of performance reports. Remember how you used to look up to captains as confident, competent leaders who had everything figured out? Yeah, turns out they were just better at hiding their panic. You're now responsible for actual humans and real missions, and your inbox is a black hole that eats your will to live. You used to dream about flying jets. Now you dream about finishing your paperwork before midnight. Your commander thinks you're a rising star. Your NCOs think you're trying your best, and your airmen think you look tired. That's because you are. You're the overworked middle manager of the military, stuck between colonels demanding miracles and lieutenants who can't even format an email. And yet, you're good at it. You've learned to speak fluent acronym, fix problems that aren't yours, and deliver pep talks like a motivational YouTuber. You've accepted that mandatory fun is neither mandatory nor fun. You can run a flight meeting, lead a deployment, and still make it home in time to reheat the same sad leftovers you've been eating since tech school. The captain rank is where the Air Force filters the dreamers from the lifers. You'll either stay and keep climbing, or you'll realize that civilian life pays better and doesn't make you do PT at 5 a.m. Still, captains are the heartbeat of the service, exhausted, overqualified, and holding the entire operation together with caffeine and sarcasm. Enjoy it while it lasts, Captain, because next up is Major, 04, where the Air Force gives you power and instantly regrets it. Major, 04. Welcome to Major, the rank where your youthful spark officially burns out and gets replaced by a deep, coffee-fueled cynicism. You've been around long enough to know how the Air Force really works, and unfortunately, that's why you drink now. This is the point where you stop saying sir and start saying, with all due respect. You've been through deployments, briefed generals, and survived at least one PowerPoint-induced meltdown. You're no longer impressed by shiny jets or fancy uniforms. The only thing that excites you anymore is leave days and finding out the DFAC has decent coffee. Majors are the middle management of the Air Force's soul, too senior to blame ignorance, too junior to make real change. You get assigned strategic projects that sound important, but really mean babysitting captains who think they're changing the world. You've seen it all before, and you can predict the exact moment a new lieutenant's optimism will shatter, like a weatherman for broken dreams. You've also mastered the "I'm listening" face during staff meetings, while mentally calculating how much longer until retirement. You know every acronym, every loophole, and every way to look busy without actually doing anything. Majors are the quiet heroes of bureaucracy, fluent in sarcasm, allergic to idealism, and powered entirely by bitterness and energy drinks. You're still sharp, still competent, and somehow still hanging on despite it all. But here's the real kicker. You've reached the point where people actually start to listen to you, and that's terrifying, because now your bad ideas can actually happen. Enjoy it, Major, because next up is Lieutenant Colonel 05, where you finally get the power you always wanted, and instantly wish you didn't. Lieutenant Colonel 05. Ah, Lieutenant Colonel, the rank where you finally get the respect you've been chasing, and instantly realize it's just a polite way of saying you're old now. You've climbed the ladder, you've survived the nonsense, and now the Air Force rewards you with your own personal hell. Administration. You used to command jets, now you command emails. You once led missions, now you lead PowerPoints about missions. You're basically a glorified project manager with slightly better uniform tailoring. This is the rank where you're trusted to run squadrons, guide careers, and keep morale up, which is funny because you barely have any left yourself. You spend most of your time pretending you believe in the new initiatives HQ pushes down every quarter, even though you've seen the same ones recycled since 2003. The young officers look at you like a mentor, the old colonels look at you like a threat, and the enlisted, they know exactly how many energy drinks it takes before you start swearing at your laptop. You've mastered the art of the motivational speech, one that sounds inspiring but is really just code for, "We're short-staffed, good luck." And when you're not giving pep talks, you're stuck reviewing performance reports that all say the same thing. Outstanding leader, promotes teamwork, blah blah blah. At this point, your dreams of making colonel are still alive, but your will to chase them is fading fast. You've got one foot in command, one in burnout, and you're just hoping no one notices which foot's heavier. You're the unsung backbone of the officer corps, balancing chaos, paperwork, and a caffeine addiction that could legally qualify as self-harm. But hey, at least you've still got your parking spot. Colonel 06. Congratulations, Colonel. You've made it to the big leagues. You've outlasted the caffeine crashes, the urgent but not really emails, and the soul-crushing staff meetings. You're now part of the rare few who can walk into any base and immediately make everyone else sit up straighter. But let's be honest, you didn't get here by flying jets anymore. You got here by surviving the political minefield that is Air Force bureaucracy. You've become a master of the phrase, "per my last email," and can navigate acronyms like a second language. At this level, you're less of a pilot and more of a politician. You spend your days balancing budgets, signing papers, and pretending to care about team-building initiatives. You don't fly planes, you fly desks. And if you're lucky, once a year, someone might let you touch a simulator, just for nostalgia. Every meeting you attend could have been an email. Every email you send spawns 3 new meetings. You've learned that strategic vision really means make a slide deck that no one will read. You command entire wings now, hundreds, sometimes thousands of people. But the funny part is, you barely have time to talk to any of them. You're too busy convincing higher-ups that your command deserves more funding, while quietly wondering why you ever thought this job was glamorous. Still, you're respected, feared even. The young captains see you as a legend. The senior NCOs know you're just really good at pretending you have control. And the general, he sees you as a potential threat, or the next person to blame when things go south. You've made it to the top of the real officer pyramid. Everything above this point, that's not a rank. That's politics with fancier medals. Brigadier General 07. Welcome to the one-star club, where the coffee's stronger, the handshakes firmer, and the egos measurable by radar. You've officially crossed the line between officer and legendary government PowerPoint entity. You don't walk into rooms anymore. You enter theaters of operation. At this point, you're not leading squadrons. You're leading narratives. You've traded your flight suit for a tailored uniform that hasn't seen a drop of engine grease in a decade. The only turbulence you experience now is when your aide-de-camp forgets your talking points before a briefing. Your day-to-day? Endless briefings, ceremonial handshakes, and pretending to care deeply about synergy and multi-domain operations. You nod thoughtfully in meetings about budgets and strategy, even though 90% of it sounds like alphabet soup cooked by Congress. Your presence alone is enough to make colonels panic clean their offices. The moment someone hears generals visiting, an entire base suddenly looks like it's preparing for a presidential inspection. Floors get waxed, uniforms get sharper, morale gets fake. But here's the secret no one tells tells you. Brigadier General is the most awkward rank in the Air Force. You're too high to have real friends, too low to make real change. You're constantly trapped between, "Yes, sir," and "We'll need to run that by the Pentagon." Still, you're the face of success. You've done the impossible, climbed every rung of the military ladder without getting thrown off. The problem? From here on out, it's less about skill and more about politics. And the higher you go, the thinner the oxygen and the patience. Major General 08. Congratulations. You've leveled up from local legend to regional phenomenon. 2 stars now shine on your shoulders, and everyone around you suddenly develops a mysterious fear of eye contact. You've officially joined the Big Air Force Club, where every problem is strategic, every meeting is classified, and every email you send is somehow in PowerPoint form. As a Major General, your days are consumed by acronyms, committees, and pretending to listen during endless teleconferences. You don't fly jets anymore. You fly slides, policy memos, and morale speeches written by someone 3 ranks below you. You've mastered the art of sounding confident while saying absolutely nothing. We'll circle back on that. Let's align with strategic intent. This is a leadership opportunity. You're not really in the Air Force anymore. You're in the air bureaucracy. You spend half your time traveling between bases, giving motivational speeches about resilience, innovation, and accelerating change before we're forced to, even though no one knows what that actually means. When you visit an installation, everyone acts like they've been preparing for months. The flight line sparkles, the hangars smell like lemon polish, and every airman is suddenly smiling like they've never been tired a day in their life. You nod approvingly, ask 1 or 2 generic questions, and then leave in your VIP jet because walking is for the enlisted. The truth? Being a Major General is a balancing act between politics and performance. You're 2 mistakes away from early retirement, but 1 viral quote from being immortalized in a leadership PowerPoint forever. 2 stars look great on paper, but every promotion from here on out feels less like flying and more like orbiting. Lieutenant General 09. 3 stars. You've officially left the planet. At this point, you don't command a base or a wing. You command concepts. You speak in strategic visions, operational paradigms, and inspirational buzzwords like lethality, synergy, and joint readiness. You could walk into a briefing, say absolutely nothing for 10 minutes, and everyone would still nod like you just recited prophecy. Your schedule? 90% meetings, 5% travel, and 5% pretending you're not asleep during briefings. You're basically a celebrity now. Every time you visit a base, the airmen scramble like it's Judgment Day. Floors are waxed, grass is trimmed, and someone's definitely repainting a wall just because the general's coming. You've got aides, drivers, speechwriters, and someone whose entire job is to make sure your coffee is exactly the right temperature. You don't touch a keyboard anymore. You direct thoughts that turn into emails. When you do talk to lower ranks, it's like a spiritual experience for them. He looked right at me. She shook my hand. They said, "Good job. I can retire now." But here's the catch. The higher you go, the lonelier it gets. Every decision you make ripples across continents, and 1 poorly timed quote could end up on Air Force Reddit for eternity. You start missing the old days when your biggest problem was a late sortie or a coffee spill on your flight suit. Now, you manage empires. You write memos about warfighting concepts you'll never personally fight in. And when you finally get home, your spouse just sighs, "You were talking in acronyms again." Being a lieutenant general means you're powerful enough to change the Air Force, but too busy in meetings to actually do it. General 010. 4 stars. The summit. The final evolution of an Air Force officer. Part strategist, part politician, and part myth. You don't walk into rooms anymore. You descend into them. The moment you arrive, the air somehow feels 15% more pressurized. You don't command squadrons or even bases anymore. You command ideas that shape the entire military. When you speak, people take notes even if you just said, "Let's circle back on that." You've become a master of PowerPoint diplomacy and conference call warfare. Your calendar looks like a NASA launch schedule, and you need 3 colonels just to keep track of your coffee appointments. The perks? Everyone calls you sir or ma'am like it's a sacred ritual. The downside? You stopped sleeping sometime around your 2nd star. You're constantly juggling congressional hearings, policy briefings, and the eternal quest to look serious while riding in the back of a C-37 jet. Your job isn't to lead airmen anymore. It's to inspire institutions. Every quote you say is carefully crafted, every move choreographed, every handshake photographed. You're a living symbol, a PR campaign with ribbons. When you show up at an airbase, everyone suddenly pretends to be twice as productive. Even the vending machine stands at attention. But deep down, you know what keeps you grounded. The young airmen and officers still grinding it out on the flight line. The ones who remind you why you started all this. And when the dust settles and you finally hang up that uniform with 4 stars gleaming on the shoulder, you realize something. You've spent a lifetime chasing the sky, and somehow it still feels like the sky won. And that's the full climb. From 2nd lieutenants tripping over salute protocols to 4 stars rewriting Air Force history. If you survived that ride, you deserve a medal. But don't eject yet. Because if you thought the officers were wild, wait until you meet the enlisted side of the Air Force. Click right here and watch every enlisted Air Force rank roasted. Trust me, you'll never look at a crew chief the same way again.